Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of G Talk with Pastor Grissom. We know that G stands for God, and we want to just thank you all for tuning in for another edition on the show. We have a very wonderful guest on today that she's going to come in her own way, and she's going to share a testimony with us. So we want to welcome to the show on this evening, Shena Pettigrew. Let's welcome Miss Shena Pettigrew. God bless you. Thank you for coming with us and joining us today.
Sir. Thank you for having me.
All right. Right. Miss Shena Pettigrew, it is a pleasure to finally meet you. You know, we was at the radio station the other day, and I got a phone call. It was you, of course, and he was asking about the G-Talk show. Mm-hmm. And he was asking how to get on it, and I was going through the details of how you can actually log on to the G-Talk show, but you came at me at another way, like, no, how can I get on the show?
Right.
Because you said you had a testimony and to share with us. And I just thought it was very genuine, authentic, and I thought that would be very fitting because we know that with every testimony, there's always a test that comes along with that. So today, just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the testimony.
Okay, well, I'm happily married.
Okay.
I've been married for 13 years.
Right.
I have 5 beautiful children.
All right.
I have my own business. I have a ministry. It's a clothing ministry where I help people out who are less fortunate. Okay. I accept donations from people, unwanted items, and I just, let people come get them that need them. So,
wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So how long have you had your clothing ministry?
A year.
A year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's. I'm glad you told me that. So is it a location that maybe we can drop clothes off to you, or how do you go about with that?
Well, the ministry is actually in my house. Okay. It's in my yard, until God blesses me with a building. I'm just going to be faithful for what I got, right. And I do it in my yard. If anybody wants to donate anything, I accept clothing, I accept shoes, household items, toys, whatever. Okay. The address to the location is 117 Ogden Road, Southeast, and it's in Milledgeville, Georgia.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Good. Be faithful over the few, and He'll bless you with more. Right.
Amen.
So that's good. Yeah. So you're here to bless us and share with us your testimony. So why don't you just share with us some of that on your testimony?
Well, God allowed us to go through things in life. It's not to hurt us. It's to help us to be a help to someone else. And as a child, I was an orphanage child. It was 11 of us. My mom and dad had 11 children, 6 girls and 5 boys. And we were all foster kids. And we were placed in different foster homes throughout our lives until we got a certain age. And I think when I was like 7 years old, 8, that's when a family member of mine took me in. But for the time being, my mom, she basically gave us up for adoption. Me and my sisters and brothers, and we had to go from different home to home, different areas, and we were not together. And as a child, that hurt me a lot, and I cried plenty of nights and plenty of days, wanted to be with my family, wanted to be with my mom, my dad, but couldn't. And as I got older, I hated my mom for what she did to us, for giving us up. I hated my mom. And, when I became a Christian, God spoke to me. And He was like, in order for me to forgive you, you have to forgive your mom for what she did to you. So when I wanted to become saved, I had said some stuff behind my mom's back a long time ago. I told her that I hated her and I wished that she would die. So God brought that back up to me, what I said about my mother. And the thing about this right here is that I had been hurt so long and hurt for so many years. And anybody that's going through that right now, an orphanage child, I want to tell my story so they'll know that they're not alone. There is hope, that God is with you no matter what. God will never leave you nor forsake you. And I just want to be a help to someone, an orphanage child that's going through right now, because I was once one. And God allowed me to get through. And even also as an orphanage, we were told that we were going to be just like my mother. We were going to be alcoholics, drug addicts, But I thank God allowed me and blessed me not to step into that. What somebody put over my life, what somebody said over my life. God allowed me not to walk into that. I'm not gonna lie and say that I did not try it. I tried it, but God allowed that taste to not settle in my body. He allowed me not to want to do it.
So not only were you had to overcome the challenge of being put up with adoption,
Mm-hmm.
but now you also had the challenge of being sent to an orphanage,
Mm-hmm.
to where now they're steadily pouring negativity into your life.
Mm-hmm.
So now you had to come on a double whammy, so to speak, on that.
Right.
So how did that challenge you? You know, because sometimes you're put in an orphanage and it can be a blessing.
Right.
But in this case, it wasn't.
No, we were put in different homes, different types of homes, and the homes that we were placed into, we were being mistreated.
Wow.
Badly, and we had to stay because basically nobody else didn't want us. I can remember one foster home that we were placed into. My foster parent was being so mean to us, we just ran away. And we were walking down the street trying to get away, and the cops saw us. And the cops asked us what was going on. We told them, and we had to get in a car, and we had to get placed somewhere else.
And so the same cycle kept going on everywhere that you.
Mm-hmm.
When did the cycle break? Like, when did you see, like, I guess what I'm asking was, did it ever come up, this cycle continue while you was all in every orphanage, or did you just was placed in an orphanage that was a better place for you?
I was actually placed in a foster home where the foster parent loved me.
Mm-hmm.
She treated me good. She was a woman of God, but they took me from there, so.
And from that point is where your transformation started again, the way you saw where God was taking all those stumbling blocks and turning them into stepping stones for you.
Right. I used to cry, ask God, why me, why us? You know, I had a bad childhood. It was terrible. I used to just cry. That's why I feel so bad for kids now that's going through that. I know their pain. I know their struggle. I know how it feels to have events at school and everybody's parent is there but yours. That hurts.
Right.
That hurts.
Well, I mean, just, like you're saying, as we title this, I know your name, but don't know the story. Your relationship with your other brothers and sisters. How do you be in contact with them now, or do you know how they're getting along?
We do, but it's not like it should be, like I would want it to be. I think that we probably would have grew up together, we'll be closer than what we are now, but we're not. Everyone actually, where they were fostered at, where they got adopted at, they're still there.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So they're still kind of in that cycle.
Yeah. And a lot of my siblings, they're in their 20s and 30s, and they're still hurt from that.
How has the experience and what you've been through with orphanage, how have you used that with your relationship with your kids?
Well, I always told myself that if I had kids, I would never abandon my kids. I would be the best mother I could be. And not only to my kids, but every child. Every child. And it's funny, every child that I know call me auntie. Because I show that loving kindness and caring towards every child. Because you just never know what somebody's going through.
Not being and saying that, do you find that balance to where, because through your childhood you was mistreated so much that you don't take that love and that caring, you don't let you be exposed or abused from it as well, because sometimes we can love a little too much in a certain area to where we need to maybe be firm, but because we've been maybe mistreated so much, we just want to make sure that we're just super nice and super loving.
Right.
So you have to have that balance, right?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Like I love you, but I have to be stern with you as well, and not have that fear of, well, I'm really mistreating that child.
Right.
I'm doing this out of love.
That's my fear. I don't want to mistreat my children. Right. I understand, that as parents we have to be strict. Right. But I don't want my kids to ever say, Mama's mean, Mama's taking out on us, what she's been through in her life. I don't want that.
Right.
I don't want that.
So let's talk about the forgetting and forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we have to forgive.
Sure.
It is something I learned about in forgiving is you can forgive from the heart, but along with forgiving, repentance has to be attached to it.
True.
So you can forgive a person, but you don't never have to necessarily go to that person
True.
and tell them that you forgave them.
Mm-hmm.
The forgiving and the repentance part comes into the fact is where if that person knows they've wronged you,
Mm-hmm.
and then they come and ask you to forgive them,
Right.
and if we don't, then we're held accountable.
True.
Because that's how we do it our Father daily. We know we've done something wrong, right? But if we never go to Him and acknowledge that, so on the forgetting part,
Mm-hmm.
we say, well, if you forgive and don't forget, then you ain't really forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
But how can you forget what has happened to you in your life? You can't forget that.
I can't.
No, you can't. But that terminology as well comes to the fact is that, no, I can't forget it, but when I use that word forgive, I'm saying that I'm not going to let that hold me bondage.
Right.
I'm not going to let that hold me bondage.
Right.
And that's your testimony, because you forgave and you forgot. Not to the sense that you forgot what happened to you, because you can't forget.
Right.
You can't forget something good that happened. You can't forget nothing bad that happened
Right.
to you. But you can't let that hold you bondage. You can't be a prisoner of it.
True.
So in that essence is where you're saying, I forgave and I forgot.
Right.
And I'm moving forward, because whatever God has got for you, and you already know that, is not behind you. Everything He has for you is in front of you.
Just wanted to be loved.
Right.
And
That's when the enemy really comes and attacks you.
mm-hmm.
When you're at your weakest. But
and I accepted that because I thought that was love.
you brought your parents. Both of your parents, are they still living?
My father's deceased.
Your mother's still.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? Have the relationship been mended since you've grown in Christ?
I called her and I asked her, to forgive me for what I said behind her back. I mean, I feel like the relationship could be closer. I do. But it's not. I'm going to be honest, it's not. But I have to continue daily to pray about that,
Now, you said something, let's get back right. You said you went to her and you asked her
mm-hmm.
to forgive you
Mm-hmm.
for what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Have she asked you to forgive her for what she's done?
No.
Wow. That's amazing. And have you ever really thought about that? I'm going to her and asking her for forgiveness, but not once has she asked me to forgive her, because this is the reaction. I will say it's a reaction that caused you to have that reaction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But thank God Almighty, you stopped reacting. And I use that word reacting because anytime we react, it's normally, we things come from reaction.
Right.
You know, if the doctor prescribed you some medicine and you take it and he said, well, you have a reaction to it, we have to change that medication.
Right.
But if you're responding to it, then that means that medication is working out good for you.
Right.
So you went from reaction to responding to the things that has happened to you. And once you start responding, it seems like good things is starting to pour into your life now.
It is. It is. God has blessed me with an amazing husband that I love so much. He was my best friend.
Good.
He blessed me with 5 beautiful children. As I look at them, I'm like, Lord, everything I went through in life, it was worth it at the end.
Right.
We go through trials and tribulations, but we never know what our outcome is going to be. So I thank God for allowing me to get through that and go through that storm, because at the end it was a rainbow. And that's how I know God is real, when I see my children and my husband. because of knowing that all the things that I've been through in my life, knowing that I got them, and I got somebody that actually loves me for real.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that doesn't call me out my name, someone that doesn't put his hands on me.
Right.
That's what love is.
Right.
At the time when I was younger, I thought that, because he put his hands on me and because he called me out my name, he loves me. I must have did something wrong,
And an abusive person, they will use that excuse and say that I did that because I love you.
And he would tell me he did it because his dad did his mother like that.
Right.
And I just thought it was right.
Well, I noticed something else in that story that you told me about your husband and your children and relationships that you was in the past as you was seeking and misidentifying love. Is that God still kept you sheltered because you didn't have any children out of any of those relationships?
Well, with the guy that I was with that abused me, I had to.
You had to.
Yeah.
Okay. And they was brought out of that at a young age. But he was able to, as you with your husband now, he was able to take that because.
Yeah, I told him about what happened. He said, "You ain't never got to worry about me doing that to you ever." And he kept his word.
And that's also another definition of love too, accepting people as they are.
As they are.
Right.
As
You know when somebody loves you, when they can accept you as you are, because we identify that with Jesus. He loves us in spite of it. He loves us as we are, but not for us to stay as we are.
Right.
So that is definitely a testimony that, like you said, I think someone out there needs to understand that, because out of every message there was a mess. Out of every testimony there's a test for us. All right, so man, this story that you had is so amazing. But as I'm listening to your story, I know that for every miraculous story, there has to be there's another side of it.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, for me to say that I've been healed, there has to have been a sickness.
Right.
For me to proclaim that I had a comeback, there had to be a setback.
True.
So I guess I'm asking you that from what we see now, because you sharing your glory, but we don't really know your story. We know your name, but we don't know the story behind it. Tell me, how did you get to this point? Like some of the, if you don't mind sharing, maybe some of the most trying, difficult times, or maybe some of the crazy decisions or things that you did that because of you was seeking love, or because of your upbringing that caused you to make some bad decisions.
Right. Well, again, like I said, trying to find love, wanting somebody to love me. I can remember when I was in school, I was talking to this guy, and he got me pregnant when I was 17. And when I was 17 years old, I told him I was pregnant with a baby, and he left me. He left me all by myself. But before that happened, me and him, we used to hang out a lot together, just for me trying to find somebody to love me. I wanted to be with him at all times. And something had took place one night to where he had committed a crime. And I was there at the time when the crime happened. And we got charged for armed robbery and aggravated assault and possession of a firearm while committing a crime. And like I said, I love the boy so much, and I just wanted to be with him. I went down for the crime as well, and I got charged for what happened. But to clear up the point, I did not do it.
Right.
I did not do it. I was just there, and I knew what was going on. But I love him so much. I just wanted to be there with him. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, how is he doing?
He's deceased.
He's deceased. Wow.
But during the process of God dealing with me in my life, God spoke to me one day. Because a lot of times when we go through stuff, we question.
Right.
And I asked God one day, a lot of times as I look back over my life, I'm like, Lord, why? Or Lord, thank you.
Mm.
At the time when the crime was committed, we were 17. And you know, as I go throughout my life, when I try to apply for jobs, I get certain jobs I can't get because of the felony. It's a felony on my record.
Mm.
I can't get certain jobs because of that. But you know, as I think about my life and ask God and question God about things, God spoke to me one day. And he said, Shena, go back to that time when that happened that night at the club when you got the charges.
Mm.
He said, think about all the people that were involved. Think about everybody that was involved.
Mm.
He said, think about them where they are and think about you where you are. Two of the guys that were involved, you know, they're gone on with their lives, but my son's father, he's deceased now. He died at 32 years old. God said, look at you. I still got you here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we go through stuff in life, we wonder why. We go through it, but we go through it for a reason. And God knows He won't put no more on us than we can bear. We think we can't take stuff, but we can because God is our strength. Because sometimes I ask God, why am I still here? Because I've tried to commit suicide 3 times. And God didn't allow it to happen. And I asked God, like, why am I still here? He said, look, think back about your past and everything that you done went through. And he said, you know, your son's father is deceased. He's no longer here. I still got plans for you.
Right.
So the reason why I tell my story is to help somebody else, to let people know that what we go through in life is not to hurt you, it's to help you.
Right.
It's to help somebody else that's going through.
Right.
Because I did not think that I can take it. I did not think that I can go through this. I did not think I can handle it. I tried to take the easy way out. I tried to kill myself. And I have the scars to prove it. Where I tried to cut myself and kill myself because I didn't want to live anymore. I got tired of all the stuff that I was going through. Even as a child up into my adulthood, I got tired. I was done. But God allowed me to stay here to help people to tell my story. And however way or wherever I got to tell it, I'll tell it. I'm not ashamed of nothing that I've been through. I'm not ashamed of nothing that I've done. I done done it all.
And you know, and that's a good thing. You know, we say, you know, I grew up, people say it, that you don't question God. You don't question God. But I found out, if you read your Bible, look through your Bible, that's all you see. It's questioning. You know, if you can't question God, then, you know, who you going to question?
Right.
You know, it's not the fact that you don't question God. You question God. You don't challenge God.
Right.
You know, there's a difference. And sometimes, and also, as you look throughout the Bible, you look through, even through people's lives, a lot of times God, He takes you through something for somebody else. You know, and that's one of the things that you can't figure out. You know, His ways is not like our ways. His thoughts is not like our thoughts. And
right.
You just wonder to yourself, why are you using me to go through, you know, for somebody else to see this, so, you know, that can be a help. But, you know, we go through things to, you know, to be a blessing and to be a help to somebody else as well. So, you know, we want to thank you for sharing your testimony. But I want to ask you before we end everything that, you know, what you have been through and gone through, what advice would you have or like to share with young women such as yourself, because you are a woman, and not just young women, but orphans in general? You know, what advice would you like to share with?
My advice to share with anyone is just know that what you're going through right now is just a test. It's a test, and just know that you're going to get through. Just keep the faith. Just keep fighting. One day it's going to be over. My advice to women: you have to know who you are. You have to know who you are and whose you are. We all make mistakes. We've all done wrong. Nobody's perfect. But God will come to you where you are.
Exactly.
God doesn't leave us, we leave Him.
Right. That's right.
Just we have to be encouraged. We have to be strong-minded. I understand we're gonna make mistakes, We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna do wrong. We're not gonna do right all the time, you know. And even as Christians, we still don't have it right.
Exactly.
But we're trying to get it right. So to my advice to the women, just stay encouraged and just know who you are. And know that you are somebody. Know that you're beautiful. And know that you can do all things through Christ Jesus that strengthens you. I know it's hard for someone who doesn't know. But that's why God allowed me and whoever else to go through so we can help them to get through it. And know that God is always there. You can do this. You got this. We in this together. I am my sister's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I thank God for what he brought me through so I can help the next female, so I can help the next child, to the next child, but for the child that's an orphanage, just know that even though you might be going through what you're going through right now, but it ain't gonna last always. It's making me emotional. God is there. It's hard, I know it's hard. It's hard knowing that, feeling like you don't have nobody, feeling like you're alone, but you're not. God is there. You're gonna get through it.
And you don't know who you are unless you have challenges in your life. That's when you find out who you are. You know, like you're saying, you know, we've always, because we are human, we don't fall short and step out of his will at times. But at the end of the day, Paul said, "What I haven't apprehended it, I haven't attained it, but I keep pressing." I mean, each and every day I'm gonna get up. And I'm gonna try to give God the best that I can, because that's what he gave me.
That's all.
And what he had for you, if it don't kill you, or destroy you, it's just gonna make you stronger. And you know, I know that your tears is tears of victory. You know, those are tears of determination. Those are tears of fighting. Those are tears of faith. That's not tears of sorrow. No, that's tears of you looking back and saying, "I know where God brought me from, and I wouldn't have made it if it had not been for God being on my side." So we wanna thank you. We wanna thank you for your testimony. We wanna thank you. We know that it's gonna bless some young lady, some orphanage, someone that's in adoption, someone that's being treated. You know, let them know that it's not over until God says it's over. And we want to thank each and every one of you for viewing in on this telecast. We hope that it was able to bless you in some type of way. And we want you to join in with us next week at this very same time, G Talk, on this YouTube channel. And we want you to just remember that you're blessed, you're highly favored, that God is definitely smiling upon you. And remember, don't be more than what you are, but don't you dare be less than what God created you to be. We love you. God bless you.
You may want to show you something.